All right, it's 7:00 p.m., so we'll bring this Cecil Township Zoning Hearing Board meeting to order. March 18th, 2024. First, we'll do quick introductions. I'm Kara Sheridan, the chairperson. I have James Jones to my right, Troy Gump to his right, and Alan Barney to his right. We have Kathy Landock, the stenographer, who's taking notes and recording all the meetings for the hearing. Christopher Voltz from Tucker Aaronsburg, our solicitor for the zoning board, and Elizabeth Ross, our zoning director. Before we get started, I guess with anything, we will first do I'll ask for approval of the minutes from the February 19th, 2024 meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the February meeting.
I'll second that. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Next, we're moving on to old business, and before we get started, anyone who intends to speak in any capacity and give testimony regarding the items either on the old business or new business agenda, if you could please stand and get sworn in for your testimony by Kathy. Okay, very good. Thanks, everyone. So the first item that we have on old business is application 2024-0002, Matthew Schodel. This is an appeal at 242 McConnell Road, Canonsburg. I'd ask you to step to the podium and present if there's anything, Liz, that we need to bring up on the monitor for them. Just really, what we're looking for here is for you to speak to what the request is to have the appeal overturned, what the details are of that request, and any kind of testimony you want to make towards the application that you submitted. Oh, Liz, we'll let you go first then. Do you want to go first before we turn it over to them, or how would you like to do it?
Liz should probably go.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, Liz, go ahead. Liz will go first, and then we'll ask you guys to speak. Sorry about that.
She has some pictures that she wanted to. Yeah, just to kind of show property we're talking here. I have pictures of the property and satellite view.
Okay. Sure.
Just so you have an idea.
Oh, they're all different.
Can you hear me? Mr. Schodel lives in the R2 medium density residential zoning district, where the ordinance establishes several residential uses by right. In that district, it does allow for home occupations as a use by right, and home office as a use by right, and home occupation as a special exception, which, as you all know, requires a public hearing and approval before you. So the township has a policy in place of issuing a zoning permit for what we call no impact home-based business. It clarifies the home office as a use by right. Someone comes in, they say, I have this business. It's not really a home office, it's more like a home business, but it really doesn't meet the criteria of a home occupation. So the township has regulations for these no impact home-based businesses that the property owners agree to, and we issue a zoning permit to permit the no impact home-based business. In this case, I have the agreement that Mr. Schodel signed along with his application for the no impact home-based business. And this sheet here is the regulation sheet. It gives a definition of no impact home-based business and goes through 11 requirements. As you can see at the bottom, Mr. Schodel signed, and agreed to these regulations for the issuance of this no-impact home-based business permit for an auto detailing at his residence. As you can see, number 9 says the business activity shall be conducted only within the dwelling and may not occupy more than 25% of the habitable floor area. So this was July 7th, 2023, and on July 28th, 2023, Mr. Schodel received a letter of zoning compliance. I have a copy of that letter. Right here, July 28th, 2023, zoning compliance. It's explaining to Mr. Schodel that we've received resident complaints that business operations are being conducted outside of the dwelling, which violates those no-impact home-based business regulations. I did include a copy of this regulation, circling that one just to further emphasize the point. And I explained here, you can see that should the township obtain any documented evidence or, proof of non-compliance here, that we would have to revoke that zoning permit for the no-impact home-based business, and then he would be in violation. So that...
Can I ask a quick question, Liz? So is the concern more about the 25%, or is the concern more about the activities taking place outside, or is it really both that are the main concerns?
So the 25% habitable floor space was never actually, calculated or stressed here. It was really just that the business activity was being conducted outside of the dwelling. The pictures showed work being done in the detached garage, which is behind the house. Okay, so that was July 28th. The zoning compliance letter went out. And then we received additional complaints, and a formal notice of violation was sent on November 7th, 2023, in which we officially revoke that zoning permit for the no-impact home-based business and order a cease and desist of all commercial operation. It is my understanding that the commercial activity did cease, that he did follow the cease and desist. I have not received any reports that commercial activity has continued. However, he is appealing this to you guys for whatever he can do, I'm assuming. Sorry, lost my thought there. So yeah, so that's all I got. Any other questions?
What proof did you have when you issued that November letter?
The pictures that I do not have. There was multiple pictures of trucks and I believe like ATVs that just showed them in the garage. For the most part, there was a couple outside of the garage. I'm happy to go pull those pictures off of my computer. Yeah, I apologize for not having them.
I did. Did everybody else get a chance to see them?
Okay.
In none of those photos did I actually see work going on outside of the garage, unless it's something that everybody else saw. The work, like in progress work, appeared to be, there's a whole nother issue with the fact that the garage is detached that we'll have to discuss. But with respect to it happening inside or outside of a structure, I don't know if anyone else saw. Did you see any evidence that there was work happening, like in progress work going on outside of the structure? Let's just say
it did not show any work being actively done. Like there wasn't a video of him washing a car inside the garage. It just showed the truck in the garage.
Right.
That he was.
Or the things I saw, like that were in progress of being worked on, that looked in like something was in progress, all seemed to be happening inside the garage. At least what I saw.
Any pictures of anything in progress?
Okay.
Right. Yeah, I was just going to ask some clarification about work, because I do believe there were cases where vehicles may have been parked outside. Therefore, are these considered to be a part of that
Right.
work.
Right, and yeah, I did not see any, pictures documenting work occurring at the moment.
I think it might be helpful to get those pictures.
Absolutely.
Just so we are all on the same page here.
Do you want me to get them right now?
So if we could rewind for a quick second, we are talking about the home-based in the dwelling or in the accessory building that got the zoning permit?
So the zoning permit was to operate a no-impact home-based business, which requires it to be done in the dwelling.
And are the business being, your proof of pictures were business being constructed inside the new accessory building or inside the main garage?
Right, so there was pictures of both, of vehicles in the home's garage, which would comply, and then vehicles in the detached garage, which would technically be a violation. But like she said, they just showed parked vehicles.
I have another question about the complaint. So I think I asked, we don't have any written complaints. It was all communicated via phone?
Yes.
And were there any other complaints about things like noise or fumes or anything other than what we've already talked about?
No, that came to me.
Like foot traffic, things, people coming and going too much, any of those other things? Nothing that you're aware of?
Complaint was, about him, driving the vehicles around, not saying that there were customers driving their vehicles to his home or any type of customer traffic. It was all just Mr. Shodel.
Okay.
I'll go get those pictures real quick if that's okay.
Yeah. Want to wait for her to come back, yeah? Yeah, we'll just wait till Liz gets back and then we'll continue.
Okay, sorry about that. I gotta tell you, there's a couple here that do kind of look like qualify as work being done in the detached garage. you know. It's not letting me, oh, here we go, okay. So these were pictures that were posted onto Facebook from the site of the business that Mr. Schodel runs. That is the detached garage at his property. That is not the garage that is attached to the dwelling. That's outside. A lot of just pictures, but I do believe a couple of those. Yeah. Like
None of the pictures I'm looking at here have any work going on outside of the garage. It's just car parked there.
So I just want to clarify, work in the detached garage would qualify as outside of the dwelling.
Right.
Yep.
Good.
Anything else for me?
We'll enter these into evidence, these photographs.
Certainly.
Any objections?
All right, I think unless you have anything else, Liz, we can go and hear from Mr. Schodel and his attorney. I'm guessing that's who you are.
Show anyways. But you gave your pictures, right?
I did, yes. My name's Lisa Whistler. I'm representing Mr. Schodel today. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. I'm sorry, Lisa Whistler. Whistler, Whistler. So we're appealing the revocation of the home-based business permit. Mr. Schodel's business really complies with the spirit and the intent of this ordinance. The only reason that it was revoked is, as you heard, because he was operating out of a detached garage. But there's no impact to the community for his business. He'll talk to you tonight and tell you that at most he has 2 to 3 cars that he works on per week. All of the work is done inside of this detached garage. There are never vehicles parked outside of the garage. There's no heavy machinery used. There's no noxious fumes generated. So really, his operation of this business in this detached garage is no different than if he was detailing cars as a hobby, whether for himself or for his friends. And the spirit and intent of this ordinance is just so that when you're operating a business, it's not causing a big impact on the neighborhood at large. It's not changing the character of the neighborhood. And his business really is not. As you saw from the pictures, everything is inside this detached garage. So the sole issue really here is, can he have this permit because he's operating it in a detached garage, which again was built with a permit, instead of the garage that's attached to his house. So we're asking that the permit revocation be overturned, or potentially, alternatively, that there be a variance granted so that he can have a permit to operate out of this detached garage. I don't know if you want me to speak in the microphone or him. I guess let me know if you can't hear me.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So Matt, can you just describe what you do in your business?
It's primarily detailing, whether it's up top or down below. Like she said, it's 2 to 3 cars a week. Bigger stuff gets worked on down below, and smaller stuff up top.
By down below, you mean the detached garage, and then the ones you work on up top or adjacent to the house. Okay.
Are there ever cars lined up outside of your house?
No.
So when you have friends over, do they sometimes park outside of the detached garage?
Absolutely.
What about family members?
Yeah.
Would there be any way to even tell the difference between friends' cars or cars that are part of your business?
I don't think so. They're a lot of times one and the same.
How do vehicles get to your property?
I usually go and pick them up from the customer, I'll leave the vehicle there, and then when I'm done with it, I'll take it back and get my vehicle.
So there's not a bunch of people coming and going to your property, is that right?
No.
And once you get the vehicle, where do you put it?
They're always inside the garage, unless I take them outside to take a picture or something of when it's completed.
And do you have anyone else working with you in that business?
No, just me.
Does the detached garage have electricity?
Yes.
What about heat? What about air conditioning? Are you able to do work inside the garage with the garage doors closed? And when did you build the detached garage?
2 or 3 years ago.
And you got a permit to do that,
Yes,
correct? Are there other detached garages in the neighborhood?
Quite a few.
What type of equipment do you use when you work on the vehicle?
Buffer, workable buffer, nothing crazy.
Is that very loud when you use it? Nothing that would it even be possible to hear it if you have the doors closed? In your opinion, would anyone even know if you were operating this auto detailing business in your garage if you hadn't applied for the permit?
No, ma'am. Not unless the pictures were taken off Facebook.
And is that because this is really no different than if you were doing this as a hobby?
Yes, I've been doing this for years.
It just so happens that you're now charging people money for
Yes,
it.
ma'am.
Would you be willing to agree to not ever have any vehicles that are part of your business operations outside of the garage?
Absolutely.
So just kind of as a recap, as Mr. Schiddle testified, this is really has no impact on the community at all. It really, his use complies with the spirit and the intent of the ordinance, which is to just have a business that you're operating out of your residence that has no impact on the community. And even if there's vehicles in the garage, it's no different than if he were doing this as a hobby. It just so happens that he's charging money for it. But he did the right thing applying for the permit, so we're today asking that the permit be reinstated, or alternatively that there be a variance granted so that he can have this permit to operate this business out of the detached garage.
I have a quick question. Do you have a general idea of how many square feet the home is versus how many square feet the garage, the detached garage is? Approximately.
About 2,300 square feet in the house. So the lower garage detached is about 25, and then the upper garage is 12.8.
What do you mean 25?
Percent.
It's 25% of the house, and then 12.8% is the upper garage.
Okay.
Mr. Schultz, do you have any signage or any indicators outside of the garage?
Mr. Soto, this may be going back a little bit, but the question I have is this a hobby or is this a full-time job for you?
All that I do.
And this is what you've been doing for 5 years, 3 years?
I was in the dealership for about 20-some years, and I left the dealership to do this full-time.
Understood. So in July of 23, I think if the application was correct on the signature that you signed, at that time when you built that garage, was it your intent to run a business out of it?
Sir.
And do we require a zoning permit for a home-based occupation to get approved to begin with?
Yes.
Was that applied for?
Yes. So we don't issue an occupancy permit. We just issue a zoning permit for the no-impact home-based business.
And that was granted?
Yes.
Okay.
And just to be clear, that's different than just a home office. It was the home-based.
So yes, it's a policy that the township put in place to just kind of help with that, because we allow home offices as a use by right, and then they define home office, and then we allow home occupation as a special exception, and they also define home occupation. So certain businesses that wouldn't necessarily be an office, but don't necessarily also meet the criteria of a full home-based occupation, we then offer this home-based business / home office use, which we issue the zoning permit for, which is what Mr. Schodel was granted.
Do you use the attached garage for anything other than your business?
Yeah. Park a car in there.
Do you mostly use it to park your own stuff, or do you mostly use it for your business?
It just depends what I'm currently doing. I mean, my car is parked in there currently.
Mr. Schodel, looking at the past photos that Ms. Ross had displayed for us, you mentioned that you do a lot of buffing and detailing. Now, it looked like a few of the cars were in, I don't want to say disrepair, but that may be part of the requirement to do a proper job, is to dismantle a few of the parts and accessories. That being said, it appeared that one of the vehicles were taped off, and to me that would indicate you were spray painting. Is that accurate?
I was doing a touch-up on the quarter panel with paint, and whenever you buff, you don't want to get compound all over everything, so it's easier a lot of times to tape it up.
Thank you for the education.
Is anyone else in the audience here to speak on this issue today? Okay. I think, does anyone have anything else for Mr. Schodel at this time? We can ask him to come back up if we need to. I don't think he's going anywhere, but, sir, come. So we're good for now. Thank you. Can you just state your name and address for the record, please?
Yeah, I'm Jeff Mitchell. I live at 247 McConnell Road. I live right across the street. Board members, thank you for the opportunity to voice my opinion on this matter. And before I get into the details of it, I'd just like to reiterate some of the stuff I said 2 months ago, that I'm a resident and I live across the street where a business is trying to be established in a residential zone. This microphone's not working. And like my neighbors in our community, I value the tranquility of the residential zones. We have chosen to live here with our families, children, for the peace and pleasure it brings us. However, this tranquility is being threatened by business activities operating inappropriately within a residential zone. And this issue is not just about preserving peace, but also about upholding zoning ordinances that govern our township. These rules were put in place to protect the residents from exactly this kind of disruption. It's crucial that these regulations are maintained for the character and quality of life we've been afforded for so many years. I've been here 60 years, okay? And this is not the kind of thing we signed up for when we made Cecil Township our place to dwell in, and voted actually one of the most livable communities in Pennsylvania. And what I want to get at is, you know, there was a meeting at the beginning of the month there the supervisors had, and there was a little bit of rezoning talked about at the beginning of the meeting. And nobody got the information out to be there, because I would have been there. And I watched the video. Kara, I saw you there, and you had the same problem with it. And it was about this, it's actually about multi-districts rezoning. I don't even think it refers to any of this, but you had made the comment, we were talking about the home occupation attached garage. At 8 minutes and 35 seconds into the video said, you can't add a garage to an existing property for commercial reasons. We are protected by that, okay? And in the ordinances, 240-23E, no accessory structure shall be erected or brought to the site to accommodate or otherwise augment a home occupation business. Black and white, there it is. And there's a lot of other things in there to protect the residences from commercial business being in a residential area. I think Tom Cassiola said, yeah, we don't want house, business, house, business, house, business. It's too, Dan said, too intrusive. Certain businesses are too intrusive. And automotive, I don't know, seems like a pretty intrusive business to me. You go by any automotive business in Cecil Township, okay, you'll see it's very intrusive. Even when you go to a mall and find different businesses, you never find automotive there because automotive is pretty intrusive. Okay, it's cars. I mean, it's not packages. It's not cutting your hair. It's not doing your nails or anything like that. It's pretty intrusive. Okay, and to have this in this neighborhood, and this is an old road in this township that I've never seen anything like this ever happen. And I've been to a lot of roads in western Pennsylvania. I've been to all of them. And the only place I've ever seen anything like this was Claysville, Amity. People are out in the woods. They got 20 acres. They got 5 acres. They got acreage. They can get away with it down there. I don't even know if they have ordinances. But in this township, I mean, it just doesn't make sense to have it here. And another thing was, Liz is right. I highlighted this stuff on that no impact that, looked like violations to me. I mean, I had no problem when he came over and told me, I'm going to have a detail shop in my garage here. He does excellent work. He's very good. And I thought, that's no problem. Now, okay, we got a big garage down in the back of the property, okay? He came and got a permit up here. I have the permit right here, okay? And the permit, okay, was for a shed, not a garage. It was for a shed, okay? And it says right on here, description of work to be done. Replace small shed with large one, okay? I hate to be humped over like this, but this microphone's not working. But, replace a small shed with a large shed. Okay, you got 900 square feet down here. Now, if that's a shed, okay, why does it have garage doors on it? Once it has garage doors on it, it becomes a different animal. It's not a shed anymore, okay? And now there's a driveway cut in down there to go to this garage, not shed, okay? I have no problem with people putting sheds in their backyard. Call the Amish up, go to Home Depot, get one, drop it off in your backyard. That's great. I think everybody should have one, all right? But now you have a garage down there. It's not was applied for. It did not apply for a garage. A garage has to be on a footer, inspections. There's a lot of things when you put garages in. That's why people don't do it. I mean, this is, to me, I don't know how this can even be considered down there. I mean, the people I've talked to said, you can't have this in a residential area. We're residential. We're not commercial. I mean, like I said, the guy does great work. The money he spent up there, I'd have spent it on a commercial building and just went for it, you know what I mean? It's just that I can't see it being done up there on a residential road. I mean, I've talked to different auto places, and they said, how can he get away with that up there? I mean, look what we have to pay. Look what we have to do. We have to pay taxes. There's no tax base coming out of that. I mean, there was a big thing made about that at that meeting about having mixed businesses, but you have to get a tax base out of them. You know what I mean? There should be, it's just not fair. It's not fair to the people that are going by the rules, going in commercial areas and having a business. It just doesn't make sense to me. why this would ever be permitted. Like I said, you want to put it, car in your driveway, wash it, put it in the garage up at your house and clean it, that's fine. You can't expand into something you didn't even get a permit for.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Mitchell? Is there anything, any comments you can make to your perception of what the disruption would be? Is it traffic? Is it noise? Is it fumes? Are there certain things that you're experiencing that are making that seem commercial as you're traveling the roads, as you're driving past? Is there anything you can speak to on that account?
Yeah, when the front yard's loaded up with cars, you know, on display of what I did, I mean, that's pretty much an impact. It's not, no impact means I'm not supposed to know what's going on over there. And so the shed thing just, it blows it out of proportion to me.
Liz, can you speak to that at all? Was an incorrect permit issued, or was there something?
No, we just called it a shed instead of a garage. You know, our ordinance does not define either. We could have called it a storage structure. Call it whatever you want. As long as it's under 1,000 square feet, there are no applicable building code requirements. This shed was 750 square feet, 30 by 25, so it got a zoning permit.
Is it a fair statement to say regardless shed or garage, it's not part of the primary dwelling, therefore it still applies in the same?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, once you put a garage door and you put a vehicle in there, it's not a shed anymore.
I think what
go ahead.
I think what Liz is saying is, regardless of if it was a shed or a garage, the same exact permit would have been required and the same exact permit would have been granted.
And in addition to that, the law still would not support the running of a business out of it because it's not your primary dwelling.
Right. But and the thing about having that road cut in down there to that, I mean, a double driveway, I mean, so everybody that has a shed in their backyard should be able to put another driveway on their property to get to it. Is that correct?
Do we have anything in the...
The ordinance allows 2 driveways to serve 1 single-family residential home.
I thought it had to be a governor's driveway. It had to be connected to the original driveway. That was the only way you could have 2 driveways. Because right up the road, where Blueberry Lane cuts in, there's a double wide up there, okay, and they had 2... Guy put a driveway on the side of it, and he was told, you're not allowed to use that driveway. You cannot have 2 driveways. So they called it a patio.
The ordinance does allow 2 driveways.
Yeah, I believe I've seen the other occasions where there are 2 separate.
Well, maybe they have the acreage. I mean, acreage probably means everything. Okay, if you have a separate land with acreage, I could see that. You know, you have to have acreage, in my opinion.
Correct.
Anybody have anything else for Mr. Mitchell? Thank you, Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you.
Anyone else to speak on this matter? Please approach the podium, give your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Russell Kratt. I live at 240 McConnell Road. Kratt, K-R-A-T-T. And I live next door to Mr. Shuttle. I want to state that had I not known that he had started a business, I would have never even known it was there. We have had no noise disruptions, no fumes, no traffic, no streets being blocked. As a matter of fact, I feel he has actually gone farther to make his yard and his house more presentable to the neighborhood. I have not any issues with his garage or shed, however you want to phrase it. He has had a lot of personal vehicles. He has a couple ATVs. I believe they might be for his sons. That was a good building for him to store those, I believe, because they were kind of scattered around the yard, and after he had that built, it's all been contained. Mr. Mitchell talks about having a shed and having extra vehicles and having an extra driveway. I've lived there for 19 years personally. My wife's family has lived there for 53 years. He has a extra shed, if you want to call it, I believe a dump truck, a backhoe, and a second driveway. So I'm actually mystified by the whole thing, where this is coming from. Mr. Chodel was one person running primarily a detailing shop. He does 2 to 3 cars a week that I can even tell. I have not had any issues. My family's not having any issues. I don't see what the big fuss is about. I'd like to rebut that.
Yeah, just give it.
I live next
Yeah,
to him and I haven't had
let him finish and see if we have any questions. I think there's one more person, then if you want to come back up, Mr. Mitchell, you can do it at that time. Anything else?
No, I mean, I just wanted to state that we haven't had any issues at all. It's been quiet. It hasn't changed the neighborhood at all.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
There was one more person who wanted to speak, and then we'll go back to Mr. Mitchell.
Good evening, members of the Zoning Hearing Board. My name is Jake Hawley. I live at 618 Muse Bishop Road. My name is Jake Hawley, and I'm a previous and once again 16-year resident of Cecil Township. I'm here tonight to speak regarding application 2024-002, Matthew Shodel, located 242 McConnell Road. I've known Mr. Shodel for 15 years. Mr. Shodel is one of the most trustworthy, honest, and hardworking people I've known. The business Mr. Shodel provides services individuals who may or may not have knowledge of how to complete certain automotive tasks or jobs. He provides his services at a very reasonable and affordable cost, which for some people in today's world and economy can mean the difference between paying a bill or having food on the table. He offers to help any possible way and will not coerce an individual into a service that is not needed just to make a profit. His availability and scheduling provide an opportunity for someone like me and many others that may not have a flexible schedule, normal work hours, etc., the ability to have work completed. Having this type of business in the township I reside in is beneficial to me and to many others that have received the services. The comments that I watched from the January 2024 Zoning Hearing Board meeting on YouTube are in no way an accurate depiction of Mr. Shodel's business, nor reflect what is the actual reality. My father-in-law is a resident on McConnell Road, and I drive this road daily to stop at his residence. At no time have I seen an example of commercial activity, such as an abundance of vehicles parked for an extended period, individuals coming and going, lighted or permanent signage, etc. The property is well maintained and looks like a normal home within the township. Growing up, Cecil Township has always been a place close to me, and for those reasons is why I moved back. It's a town where neighbors help and care for one another, people can grow and develop, and make an honest living. Mr. Shodel is an example of all the above. I'm asking you, the members of the board, please reconsider and revoke the cease and desist order placed on Mr. Shodel and his business. I hope that the parties can come to a resolution this evening so that Mr. Shodel can continue with his livelihood. I thank you, members of the board, for your time and allowing me to be heard on this appeal.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Hawley? Thank you. Anyone else before we go back to Mr. Mitchell? You can reapproach the podium, please.
Yeah, I'd just like to make it clear that that's not a second driveway at my property. Okay, I own several properties. That's a separate property. It has separate water, separate electric. I pay separate taxes, all the same taxes you pay.
Okay,
I pay twice.
Sir, please address the board. Do not address the audience.
I pay those taxes twice. Everything up there is separate. I plan on building a house there, okay? And the guy next to me sold me his house. I bought his house. I'll build a house there eventually. But I kept everything, the utilities, the taxes. The township gets money from me. It's not another driveway on my property. It's a different property. And, you know, people have that misconception, and I get it, okay? And, it's, you know, as far as keeping the property and everything up there at 242 McConnell Road, I think last year was the first time in the history of that house they had to come up there and tell him to cut the grass.
Anything else? Anyone else? You have questions, or can we go?
We can go to executive
We're gonna
session.
go to a brief executive session on this matter, so just everybody sit tight, and we'll be back in a few minutes.
Do you want me or no?
You want Liz? No. No, probably, yeah.
We'll send for you.
The light switch is to the left. Alan, will you turn the light on when you go in that door? Right there. Nope, first door, yeah, when you walk in, turn the light on so nobody, right on the left. Nope, inside. Thanks, Chris. I think this microphone's gonna work better for anyone else that's gonna speak. Oh, yeah. There's some on the table whenever you first walked in the door, if you'd like a copy for yourself. Sorry about that. Did we run out? Okay. If anybody else needs a copy of the agenda, I have more. Sorry. I mean, not according to the plans that were submitted by Mr. Graziani. Sorry. Six was the first. Oh, that's not a rope. is 1386. And technically, that's 491. Oh, yeah, floor space. Yes, floor space. If there was only one floor, then we wouldn't count anything except the 896. But the second floor counts as floor space, so we add them together. Would also be considered floor space. But that's why.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Okay.
Because he told me it's a 900 square foot detached garage.
Right, so it is. Yeah, so it goes by floor space when we're talking about accessory structures because the regulations are. It's
Okay.
just how they do it. We can certainly make that point clear, you know, that is with storage space up there, that it's not, you know, that
Okay.
big of a footprint. Will not.
right, we have just a couple more questions that we'd like to ask at this time, so go ahead.
Yeah, first to Liz, just for clarification purposes. When the permit was requested by Mr. Schodel, was it stated that he would be using a, what's the right term, garage or shed or not, or detached garage?
So, when Mr. Schodel's no impact home-based business permit was issued, I was on maternity leave, and I was not a part of that conversation. However, the only thing I can say is that the regulation sheet that he signed does state
Okay.
you know, that it'll only be in the dwelling.
So with that being said, had he approached seeking a permit to do business out of a detached garage, would it be granted?
I would expect that it would not have met the requirements to be considered a no-impact home-based business.
Okay.
You know, and then that permit would not have been obtained.
Okay. Question?
The detached garage where we're conducting business now, just because I'm familiar with the site, I know there's a creek that runs below the building. In your industry, I'm assuming before you buff out and detail a car, we're running the power washer to clean it, things of that nature. My question was, are you doing that inside the garage? And if so, do you have a catch basin of some sort? And if not, where is the water being discharged to?
Primarily wash the cars up top. Not really washing anything down below. Might be work down there, but take it back up. Wash.
Do you have water?
The drain up top.
Is there water to the detached garage? Okay.
I'm just going to ask that we speak into a microphone because it's being recorded. So we can pass that one if we don't want to step to the podium, you know, whatever works for it.
Any other questions from anyone? Or did we need to repeat it into the microphone? No. Yeah, okay, sorry. Stand up, sit down. Anything else? So due to the fact that this is a complicated issue, we want to take a little bit of time to do some additional legal research. We would request and give the opportunity to any parties that are interested to submit position statements in this matter by Friday, April the 5th. And we will vote on this issue at our next meeting after we have the time. We didn't want to keep you guys here all night as we continue to have discussions. So we will vote on this matter at the April 15th meeting. Good. Thank you very much, everyone, for your patience.
Thank you, everybody.
We have a motion to close the record on this case as well.
I'll make a motion to close the record on this issue.
A second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Moving on to new business. This is application number 2024-0005. This is a Lambert Fisher variance. This is at the intersection of Cecil Henderson Road and Papp Road, Cannonsburg 15317. Liz, do you want to start us off, and then we'll let the folks who have come here to discuss this issue do their summary.
Yes, I understand they have a presentation. I'm not sure where it's minimized to. This is a standard dimensional setback variance. This is a corner lot at the corner of Cecil Henderson and Papp Roads. They're proposing a new commercial building, and they're requesting relief from the front yard setback along Cecil Henderson Road. I'm sure I have a picture of the intersection here, but I think it'd probably be best if we started with their presentation,
Okay,
if that's okay
fine
with you guys.
All right. If you could just state your name and address or for the record or organization.
Yeah, my name is Brendan Gruser. I live at 850 Oakville, Munhall, PA, 15120. Yeah, Brendan, Brendan Gruser. Yep, 850 Oakville.
My name's Andrew Good, just as it sounds, G-O-O-D, and I'm at 138 Sunset Drive in Washington, PA.
What, are you guys here from a specific organization?
Sorry, we are the managing partners of Lambert Fisher. Yes,
Okay.
This is our application.
Got it.
So we have a 10-slide presentation. We're going to try and make it quick as possible, but if you guys have any questions or want to interrupt, feel free. That's fine with us. So introduction to what we do. Lambert Fisher is a automation technology integrator. So anything with PLCs, plants, anything that utilizes automation technology, we just program. We won't be using this location at the corner of Cecil Henderson for any type of manufacturing purposes or anything like that. We have a place in Waynesburg that we can use for manufacturing. So this is mostly for meetings, computer work, mostly. There will be, I'll show later in a slide of the building layout. We would like to store some small electronics if we could, but no mass manufacturing or anything like that would be taking place in this building. You'll see the size, it's not very large. This is the corner, Cecil Henderson and Papp Road. This is where we would try to get the variance. This is what we want to build. This was rendered, created in CAD at scale based off of virtual measurements. So this isn't based off of the actual dimensions that are there. This is totally rendered outside of that. So,
and I probably guess you wish it was that flat, but it's not that flat.
Yeah, that would be great, but we'll make it whatever we need to, or whatever we get approved for. What we want to build is a small post frame building. Just for general business, like I said. And then in the further slides, we have a little bit more information on the actual parcel dimensions and that. I'm going to hand that off to Andrew. If you guys don't have any questions about the general business and what type of business we conduct there, I'd be best probably to answer that for you guys.
Yeah, if you could just speak to what are the types of things that happen there, and then also like the number of participants that you'd expect there just in general, and associated plans for parking and that type of
Perfect. So if you can tell, we're a very small company. So it's me and Andrew at this point. We're looking to start in automation, but this location would be a great prime spot to start, get clients, and expand outwards out of this location. But this is about all we could afford at this point. So this is what we're trying to. What we would be doing there is mostly when we approach a client, like say it's a conveyor system for a plant. What we do is we go meet with the plant manager, look at what they need automated, go over a multi-step plan, and develop it all on a computer. So that's mostly what we would be doing there. At most, like I said with the small electronics, is we can demo things like conveyors, like miniature versions of conveyors and things like that, or show how we can control a three-phase motor, things like that. But as far as the ongoings, there'll probably be, and you'll see this in a later slide, there's going to be an office in the one side, and then maybe a workbench kind of deal in this. So.
Okay, thank you.
So whenever we first found this parcel, it was listed online as being zoned residential. And then we did some digging into the zoning map and saw that it was actually in the C1 district, which, like he said, we're really small. This is all we can afford at the time. But right now we're kind of working out of my house, which we can't have client meetings, out of my garage. It doesn't really work. But like he said, we have they're not a sister company, but they're a partner company that has workshop space for us down in Waynesburg in an actual industrial park. So all of the brain work we'll be able to get done here. All of the physical work, any like welding for things, anything like that, will get done off-site. When we found this parcel, the obvious creek running through it, that was a main concern. We talked to the Washington County Conservation District, and they informed us that we have a 50-foot setback from the creek, and then also we have in the C1 district a 45-foot setback from the road. So that leaves roughly a 7-ish feet, 7 to 10 foot of developable space without any type of variance. The Conservation District advised us to start here with you guys because the type of permitting for a variance Creekside from DEP, they're looking at upwards of a year of timeline. I guess she has a project. This was a couple weeks ago we talked to her, and she was in the middle of a project that had already gone 8 months, you know, waiting on a response. So we found that we went out to the parcel several times and measured with measuring wheel, and then we also took aerial shots with a drone and found that this right here on the corner spot is the only viable spot without, you know, trying to go on a variance on the creek side. That gives us 50 feet. We have not had an official survey done yet, but that was under the purview of our builder that we're going to be working with, McBracy. So we actually just closed on the property last Friday. And so now that we own it, we'll be able to talk to them about getting a survey done and see where actually we have to work with. We have to come back and work on these numbers. We can do that now that we own it. This is what we're working with right now.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you,
go ahead.
but just based on what I'm hearing, this 45 feet from the road and 45 feet and 20 feet from the other road, that's just based on your walking it off with a wheel?
Yeah, walking it off with the wheel, and then this aerial measurement here, we have a 5-foot mark on the road and then use that pixel by pixel on our render here.
Okay. So it's not based on where the actual right-of-way line is?
Correct, yeah, we didn't have that information at the time that we did this, and then with the submission deadline versus our actual closing, the seller was out of town and it was a whole thing, but now we own it, so we can do whatever we need to do survey-wise.
So the closing wasn't contingent on you guys being able to build on this parcel?
Yes and no. We had already we had pushed our due diligence date, you know, by 45 days, and after talking with the Conservation District and the Sewage Council, we were fairly confident in their feedback that we would be able to come to some sort of arrangement in order to do this, because I mean, commercial real estate is wild right now. Trying to find anything within our price range is almost impossible.
Right. And according to the Washington County Conservation District, from where the creek sets and what our solicitor pointed out, the front setback, like you mentioned, you had a bowling alley.
More or less.
Where you could, one lane, not
yeah, more or less.
Yeah. One thing that I see that is a problem is, or the solicitor mentioned, the right-of-way from the road, which would be called out on a survey.
From Cecil Henderson?
From Cecil Henderson. But not only do you have to consider the ground right-of-way, you have power lines that run from the corner of Pap running through, and according to your rendition, it looks like they're pretty close, and usually there's like a 15 to 20 foot aerial right away as well. So that would something that you'd want to take into consideration.
Okay. So with that, obviously this is our first time doing all this, so some mistakes aren't necessarily unexpected. With regards to the 45-foot setback, then, is that from not from the road then, that's from whatever the most intrusive easement would be.
So
Or
that's a,
right
that-
away.
That's a state road right there.
Okay.
So you'd be able to figure out the calculations to get a close estimation before you got a survey. That's fair.
Liz, can you clarify that for us? Is the setback from,
The setback's from the property line, not the right-of-way line, it's from the property line. However, utility easements, they're not gonna typically the township doesn't concern ourselves with utility easements, they're privately owned. You guys would have to call 411 or whatever before you dig, or 811, let's call it the wrong thing. You know, and they would notify you of any easements that existed there. Aerial, I don't believe they prevent you from putting a structure there. They just kind of talk about, should there be future maintenance, you know, who would be responsible for any damage that would occur.
From the aerial side, you'll need to see the who owns those poles. They'll have the access to the right of way, and there will be some rules and regulations around it. Not to mention kind of the impact of whatever those wires. If they're COM, they still have some kind of electrical grade. What's the word I'm looking for? They give off energy, so there's some rights to how close you can be towards those lines.
Okay.
So you'll need to talk to the owner of those utility lines.
Okay.
Just as far as the setback requirement that the township establishes, that's from the property line.
sorry, did you have a couple more slides before we
interrupt
you? Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
You can finish.
This is, you know, the reason why we, with our initial talks with McBracey, the builder, they helped us come up with our footprint for this. We can adjust this minimally, but like you said, with something like the bowling alley that we're working with, something like this is definitely more aesthetic for the neighborhood.
Could you find out how much the width, like I'm looking at it from the road, so like this is the garage and doorman side.
Looking at it from Pat?
Yes. How, if the width of it could be narrower.
Okay.
I'm not saying to get to 7
To
feet
get to the
wide,
bowling, yeah,
but I'm
yeah.
saying what would be to find out what would be the narrowest reasonable size that you could make that. Obviously, it looks like you have the distance to go longer. Maybe it's just a little bit of a narrower but longer building is something. Because one of the things that we have to, we're tasked with doing is validating that you are asking for the minimum variance that's absolutely required. So if we think that making it narrower but longer is an option, that's probably something we would need to know, right?
Have you, I know you mentioned that this was your only foreseeable place that you would put it on that property. Did you consider the other side of the creek? And the reason I specifically ask is because the position you're requesting right now would in fact have a front and a side requirement, whereas if you move to the other side, the front requirement would be the only one that you would be seeking.
When you say other side, do you mean
of the creek?
So the upper one closer to the Montour Trail?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't believe we can get the 50 feet from the creek or right there with that front corner closest to where the creek kind of meanders up towards the trail. So that, and if you can see on the top right 3D to show elevation, where it gets to the base of the trail, there's a very steep upward slope. So that's a lot of additional land management. We're trying to do as little disturbing of the plot as possible.
I got you. I appreciate that. Last real statement I have is in consideration of like variances such as this, we have to consider things like safety. Being someone who frequents that road quite frequently, I am a little concerned with visibility of a major road
that's why we
being
have.
impacted.
So with that picture right here, you can see where the overgrowth behind the mailboxes is, and then where it goes will be further back. We would be roughly to where that tree is. I wish I had a laser pointer.
The prominent tree.
Yeah,
picture.
in the foreground.
Yeah.
Of that one. Thank you.
This one here?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. That's approximately where we would be with that 20 feet. But again, with that, I guess the detail of the 20 feet, that's from the road. So that would actually be whatever it ends up being from the property line when we get it surveyed. Probably be less than 20. But from the road impacting visibility, we would be right where the tree is at. So roughly the same, we would imagine, line of sight.
Can we go, oh, go ahead. Can we go back to the one with the red and the other two option areas? Same thing that James was saying regarding the middle one in the back. Same question about the one in the front. I mean, you would only need you wouldn't need a side yard variance. You'd only need a front yard variance, and it wouldn't impede the people coming off of Pap Road as they're turning.
Okay.
Is there elevation issues with that option?
It's roughly flat, obviously not as flat as anybody would like it to be, but it is flatter than that back half of the parcel. The issue that the Conservation District raised when we showed them, roughly this, was the setback to the creek. That's a lot. So they said to try to be anywhere we can be 50 feet from the creek would be best. And then getting towards that end of the parcel, they said based on satellite imagery, they didn't do a site visit, but they said based on the satellite imagery, that might actually be considered wetlands for them. But this other half of the parcel is not, based on their interpretation of the vegetation that is there.
But we don't know that for sure yet.
Right. They said they're available for technical assistance. We just have to.
I guess the question would be, if we looked at that left option and we pushed it down, would the variance that we're looking for be less than what we're asking for in the right parcel if it's not a wetlands issue? I understand you have to be 50 feet from.
Right. Yeah. That's a good question. Yeah, we didn't just because of how the creek was there, we didn't do any sort of aerial or measuring there in that front left.
Okay, that would be good to know. And just to clarify one more time, the back one is not an option at all because of that part where the creek gets closer to the corner of the building. Is that true?
Yeah, with the creek being there, with the hillside being as steep as it is, and then also I think I have it open on my laptop, the adjacent, I'm sorry, Liz, so it's 45 from the front and from the side, or I'm sorry, for the frontage, but I think it's 25 feet for any adjacent.
25 on the side.
Oh, rear.
In the rear, 45 in the front.
So I don't know if we would meet the rear, or I guess that would be a side technically, but that's the rear of the parcel. I don't know if we would meet that one either.
Yeah, I'm asking because I think we would find granting an exception to the rear setback would probably be less impactful than granting the front and front technically, because you're on a corner over there. go ahead. Any more questions?
I just think with a few things brought to light this evening regarding the creek with the conservation district, the right-of-ways, the intersection, I think it would be in the township's best interest to request the survey before we move forward to see where all the right-of-ways, the easements, the property lines actually are.
Okay, yeah.
The environmental, you're going to get a study done from the conservation district, is that, did I hear that correct?
They'll be available for us for technical analysis on, things that, we're trying to do if they need to be involved.
So I know in the survey industry, it sometimes is difficult to call today and get one tomorrow. So they're usually 4 to 6 weeks out. I work for a survey company.
In order to grant a variance, we have to know what we're granting, right? And without the property lines, we can't grant, even if they met all the requirements. It sounds like we're suggesting a continuance to next month, but maybe the month after that. Okay, is that something that makes sense to you two?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So that would be not
well, you let us know, right? If you get the survey and you get all the information that address all their questions, let Liz know and she'll get you on the agenda.
Do we have to do a whole new application, or if this one just gets adjusted? Okay.
So in addition to the survey, I'd ask for details on the left parcel, if that's not left parcel, the left potential site.
Basically
being an
any
option.
Site that could be, yeah.
And then also with your building design person, if there's a way to narrow the building and lengthen it, to help with the impact, because our goal is to make the least possible variance that we can possibly grant based on what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So if in addition to the survey, we could get those other 2 items for the next session.
Sure.
As well as anything that any points that anybody else would raise.
Is anyone else? Yeah, is anyone else here that would like to speak on this particular item? Please approach the podium and please state your name and address, if you will, please, for the record.
Yes, my name is Sharon Lynn de Blasio Stankus. DEBLASIO. Stankus. Okay. We've all been through all this side of the road. You all know who I am. So what we did was, I feel really bad for these guys. Is there any way they can go after the realtor that sold them this property? Because we're not allowed to do anything over there. Only because I'm on the same side of the road as these guys. And Jennifer and I came to see you, Liz, to see if anything could be done in an area down where my mother's house was. So my mother and dad lived there. My mother was 93 when she died, and I tried everything to try to get variances and just to stop flooding. We flooded and flooded over and over again all through our lives. And it's a wetland, and then it's an endangered tree toad. And then it was you could not, then the turnpike comes, and when the turnpike came, what they have done was they just totally ruined the property. And in fact, they changed all the topography of the land, and then when that was done, what had happened is we had a beautiful spring that came up through the basement. So we had to submerge, pumps and everything else. So we ended up actually, we couldn't even go near the creek. We had to have like 20 feet. You couldn't go 20 feet to the creek. And then my parents' home actually sat on the road. So, because the road just kept getting wider and wider. So you can't do anything. And if these kids could go back to these realtors, if they told them that they were going to be able to do this, they falsely sold them this land. Because we're all tied. There's nothing you can do. I mean, where are you going to put a septic? It would never pass a perk test. And, my heart bleeds for them, because if somebody would have approached them and told them all of this, they wouldn't have they're just gonna be in a big mess. I've dealt with the conservation department. They only help you so long, and then you gotta get into, you know, you gotta spend a lot of your own money here. And really feel that they're just gonna get into a dead end. And you know, if I could help them, I really would. I think they should get their money back. That's it.
Thank you. Would you like to?
Yeah, with regards to the septic in particular, that was one of our concerns when we talked to the Stewardship Council. But because it's commercial, we can't do septic anyway. It will be a holding tank, and that actually only has a 25-foot setback from any waterway. He was quite surprised that we have to have our surface 50 feet back, since we can have our sewage only 25 feet back. But that's on their side, that's their regulation. He looked at the parcel when we sat in his office, and he, as far as their stuff is concerned, he said we'd be good to go.
So do you have an approved sewage plan then for there?
No, so we didn't apply this.
Okay, gotcha.
This was informal, but
okay,
because we didn't own it.
But he reviewed the
yes.
plan and okay,
yes.
Thank you. Questions? Anyone else want to speak on this topic?
I have one thing to add, in that we have to advertise for the continuance. So once you are, maybe even like right before you get your materials together, if like you could give me a heads up so we can look at the deadlines and the schedule for the upcoming meetings.
Is it 14 days, Liz? You have to.
I think it's 3 weeks. I think it's 3 days. Yeah, I think it's 3 weeks.
It's got to be advertised at least 7 days before. So
yeah, so there's a bit of a.
If there's not an issue, yeah, if there's not an issue with you waiting for 2 months, would you rather do it next month if you can, or it's a?
Yeah, I mean, we're not under any hard deadlines for, you know, as far as our stuff is concerned. We've talked to McBracy, and, you know, it's just the more we delay on our side, the more they're delayed, but that's fine. We will just get our stuff together, get our ducks in a row, and get it to you as soon as possible. We're fine waiting until whenever the next hearing would be after that.
And the only other thing I would like to add is I would think it would also be helpful to include some financials when you're looking at your site development options, when you're talking about the actual dimensions of the building and where you're putting it. You know, the hardship, you know, that the board will be determining is also a financial hardship. You know, you own the property, and like the residents are saying, you know, it's difficult to develop property. You know,
yeah, we noticed going down the road. I mean, I saw in the code that you can't use, you know, other adjacent properties as basis for, you know, your application. But I see what you mean with the other houses. There, I can lay down and my feet can be in the road, and I'm touching their porch with my head. And I'm not that tall. So we definitely saw that, you know, going down there. But yeah, we can get whatever figures together from McDonald's.
I just think that would be helpful, you know, to show what your options are there, you know, like we could put this size building here for this much, or this size building here for this much.
Right.
And, you know, with the swampy conditions of the parcel and the setback requirement from the stream, you know, that's.
To add to that, if there's not a hard set need for the 20-foot variance, so like a lot of our decision is the amount of variance that we're granting.
Right.
So if it doesn't have to be just the 20-foot variance, that would be good to know as well.
Okay. Yeah.
So what we'll do is, I guess I'll make a motion that we continue this hearing to our May 20th meeting.
Okay.
That's okay with you guys? I'll make that motion. Can I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you, guys.
We'll
We really
see you
appreciate
next
it.
time.
Thank you.
Okay, our last item of business is application 2024-0006, Gordon Craig and Suzanne Adams Craig, variance for 1024 Breezewood Drive, Canonsburg. Do you want to start us off, Lynn, or would you like the residents to go first?
I think it's fine to let them present first, if that's okay with you guys.
Sure.
I'm just gonna pull up some plans here. If that's okay with you. Like, does that work for you?
Our meetings aren't usually this long, so thanks for hanging in there with us. This might be a record.
Oh, someone forgot their computer bag.
Oh, computer bag. Hey, guys, somebody's back.
Oh.
Okay.
Ready?
Yes.
Ready.
Time I did this.
That's all right.
My name is Susie Adams Craig. I live at 1024 Breezewood Drive. What I am here tonight is to ask for a variance for a detached garage I want to build. Bill Graziani built my home. He would be building the garage also. The garage I need is mostly for function and to park cars. There'll be no water or sewage or anything. It's just the garage and storage. When we built the house, my one mistake with the house was I have a pull-down thing on my second floor. I hate it.
Pull-down attic. Yep, gotcha.
I hate it. I like to decorate, and I have 6 reindeers that I light up for Christmas, and shoving those reindeers up through that hole just don't work. Plus with Christmas trees. But also, as I'm getting older, it's harder for me to get up and down those steps with these reindeers. So the idea was to build the detached garage for parking and then have the upstairs space just to shove all the Christmas stuff and decorations and stuff like that. So also, we have, my husband grows fruit trees, and we have a lot of lawn care and maintenance things for the fruit trees as long as the frost don't get them. The garage is going to be under 900 square feet. The only utilities will be electric. It will have a man door, and then in the back, 2 doors, so it's a level area for me to walk out of my back door and carry all my junk.
Just to clarify, Liz, the application says proposed 1,388 square feet.
So we talked about that. The footprint of the garage itself is less than 900 square feet. It was like 896 square feet. But the second floor space is included in the calculation when we look at the accessory structure regulations. And because there is that additional floor space on the second level, we've added that to the total area as advised by the building code official.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify that. You can continue.
Oh, okay. So the other problem was why we needed the variance was with the pitch of the roof. So if they don't do a taller, steeper roof, it's going to look really ugly, and it's going to be an eyesore in the neighborhood.
Just the pitch of the roof is what's going on. Width of the garage, you can see there's 2 doors. One's wider than the other one, so if you widen things out, you got to keep the same pitch of the roofs throughout the neighborhood, very similar. So it just bumps it up, I guess, 10 feet higher than what people
Right.
require.
And I would like to add that that roof pitch is as designed by Bill Graziani with Graziani Homes, who built the whole neighborhood. And as his development, he really wants that roof pitch to match
So it looks like that
throughout the
goal to the
neighborhood.
house.
Yeah, it's an aesthetically pleasing design, you know, it's not,
Is that his requirements or his aesthetic wanting, or is that part of an HOA?
no, it's his own personal, you know, these custom homes. So he wants the garage to match the house, and the house has that pitch of a roof, so he wants the garage to have the same pitch.
Is this, sorry, did you have more you wanted
No,
to say?
no.
Okay. Is Is this, have you taken this to the HOA?
We don't have an HOA.
They don't have an HOA out there. Okay, I just assumed you guys did. You're so fancy up there. I thought they must. Questions? Anybody have more questions?
Liz, just for clarifications, an accessory structure is permitted in the zoning district that this dwelling sets in.
Yes.
And it meets the requirement. However, since the footprint has a second level inside of it, that's where it pushes it above the threshold.
Yes, just to clarify, because I've had some discussions regarding this since being in this position and interpreting this section of the ordinance. The township ordinance calls it total livable space. And the building code official advises, or he calls it total floor space. So livable space and floor space, the way that it's been explained to me is that once you add that second floor there is what increases the calculation of total livable space, which was why the additional variance, even though the footprint doesn't exceed.
So they could have the exact same structure.
With
no
only
second
one floor.
Just this big wasted space and not need a variance.
Right, well, not need an...
They'd still need the height variance.
Yeah, they'd still need the height variance, but not need the area variance.
And again, the reason you need the height variance is not for the second floor, it's for the roof characteristic and the pitch level on the roof.
I can add it there, and if we kind of stayed at 18 feet height, it would just kind of look flat, and everything else in the whole neighborhood is kind of peak and steep, so it's more of a aesthetic thing than anything.
So the neighbors don't get mad.
Is this built into a hill or something?
Yes,
Is that what that says?
into a hillside. I have a picture on my phone if you want to.
So how much higher is the roof from the top of the hill, if that makes sense? Like, how high is this hill?
Right, you see these little, at the ends.
Yeah, that line across?
That is the ground lines, those two little.
This is the ground?
That's it, right, yes.
Okay,
That's
so that might not be 18 feet from there to there.
No, they're measuring from the way down at the bottom.
Right, the lowest point, which is what the ordinance says, but from the highest point.
It's not going to look like
it's not
only 10 feet shorter than the house because it's going to be in the
it's going to be way,
hillside.
Way lower than
that's what I'm saying. I mean, we don't want a giant outbuilding that looks like the same size as a house. That's, I guess, part of the reason for the limiting of the square footage and the height. More questions?
Mr. Craig, the proposed garage, in relation to the existing driveway, will you be adding driveway space, or will you be adding to the driveway to make this garage?
Yes, the smaller door on the right-hand side, we will add probably an 8-foot section, 8 by 12 or something, just so it can kind of.
But not depth-wise?
No, not depth-wise.
Okay, so are you, when we were talking about building back into the hillside, you're going to be excavating that out to accommodate the garage?
Yeah, when you pull in, I could, let me show you.
If you saw a black car creeping past your house before you left for the meeting, that was me.
Yeah, see, this is,
okay.
That's what it's, that's a rendering, I just kind of pasted it in there, but there's a big hillside here, and it's just getting all hogged out of there, and that's gonna no longer be hillside, it's just gonna be two-car garage. And this is
You
gonna
guys see this?
From the back side, this is just gonna look like a triangle from the front side.
You have an extra copy of that?
Yeah, I got like plenty of copies, actually, I got 6 of them here, you can take them home and wallpaper your.
Okay, great.
We're good, I think. Pretty accurate representation, though, is how high the garage is going to be to the house next to it.
Yeah, it's scaled and everything. I work
Okay.
for an engineering company, so I made sure it's not gonna look, it's gonna look very much like that. It is to scale.
Okay.
Okay. Quick question, just clarifying. Will there be any kitchens, bathrooms?
No utilities other than electricity. It's just a garage with an attic above it. It's very expensive to build stuff.
Couldn't do all that.
Might not be the smartest financial decision.
For reindeer storage.
Expensive reindeer.
It's gonna be pretty reindeer storage.
Do anybody have any more questions? Do you have, Chris, questions?
No, not for me. Are we gonna make a decision tonight?
Yep, I move that we grant the request for a 10-foot high variance and extent necessary variance to the maximum total area of accessory structure set forth in section 10204 of the UDO so that applicants may construct a garage as depicted in the application explained at the hearing.
I second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Now your reindeers have a home.
You'll get a letter from me, basically just documenting that your variance was approved. So just keep an eye, probably email is what I've been sending.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I wish it was 8.
This meeting of the zoning board is adjourned.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, meeting adjourned. I forgot what we were doing.
8:59, we still beat the 9 o'clock mark.